Avengers Endgame is obviously one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. It features one of my all-time favorite fights, Mjolnir-wielding Steve Rogers versus Thanos, and has some of the most genuinely joyous moments in the MCU. Specifically that moment when Tony Stark imparted parenting advice to his father in 1970. But even though this flick is nearly perfect, there are some issues. Today I thought it'd be fun to run down some of the biggest ones, and point out exactly where they take place. First on this list is Ant-Man's mysterious back and forth between the time travel van and the battlefield at the Avengers facility. In the middle of the fight, Ant-Man and the Wasp rush to the van, and while they're trying to repair it, the movie cuts back to the other Avengers who are passing the gauntlet around. While Black Panther runs with the weapon, Ant-Man can clearly be seen in Giant Man mode, laying some heavy punches on a Leviathan, which obviously is one of the most common types of continuity errors that you can get when you're working with one of these types of movies. There are different design teams, who are working on these different battle sequences, and at different parts of the production time, they're not really sure who goes where and what the final order of the scenes will be. And so the background can get filled up with, random Avengers who actually aren't meant to be there. Now, if we want to try and squeeze this Ant-Man blunder into the canon, then we can argue that he quickly hopped around the battlefield, going back and forth between the van and the main fight, but that doesn't really make much sense. Instead of trying to fit this into the canon, I think we're just going to have to admit that this is an error that you'll never be able to forget when you watch it. Now, the second mistake on this list is Cap's magically self-repairing shield. If you remember the first part of the battle with Thanos at the end of Endgame, then you recall that the three heavy hitters of the Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, teamed up against the Mad Titan. While they tried their best to overtake him, the purple villain was just too powerful. He easily incapacitated Iron Man. He nearly cut Thor in two with Stormbreaker, and he also almost sliced off Cap's leg. But between the brutal blows, Thanos was able to do something that nobody thought was possible. He destroyed Captain America's vibranium shield. And this is pretty important because it was implied throughout the entire MCU history that vibranium was an unbreakable metal. Whenever Cap's shield was struck by Mjolnir or shot by Tesseract power rays, it simply shrugged off the blows. But here against Thanos' helicopter-inspired sword, Steve's shield was cut into pieces. This was confirmation that vibranium was only the most powerful metal on Earth, not the universe. But Thanos' fight led to a pretty obvious mistake later when the shield reappeared in perfect shape. When Doctor Strange and the other sorcerers opened the portals and Earth's superhero army came through, Captain America can be seen with his shield, and at one point the original perfectly circular shield reappears, as if Thanos hadn't just shattered it. And a few scenes later, it reverts back to its battle-damaged form. Now, this mistake is pretty clear-cut. It's not like Ant-Man's issue, At least we could kinda sorta believe that Ant-Man was fast enough to run back and forth between the battlefield and the van. But here, there's really no excuse for Cap's shield suddenly becoming whole again. This is just a good old-fashioned production mistake. Now, last on our list, and the one I particularly enjoy, deals with Lebowski Thor's beard. The scruffy, chubbier take on Thor was meant to emphasize how hard the Odinson was struggling with his grief over the past few movies, because in pretty quick succession, he lost his mother, his father, and his brother. And kind of most importantly, they were mostly not due to natural deaths. That means that they were murdered by Thor's own enemies. And as I'm sure you know, when your mental health takes a hit, so does your physical health, and Thor's hygiene and weight gain show that. But did you notice that Thor's beard wasn't always the same size? That's the biggest mistake I want to talk about, and I know that's pretty small, or it seems small at least when you compare it to Cap's shield and Ant-Man's battle errors, but I was actually pretty bugged by the beard. In one scene it was long, then in another it was short, and then, in another it went back to being long again. It was, just bugged me. I kept seeing it. Especially at the very end when talking to Valkyrie and granting her kingship over the Asgardians. Thor's beard was pretty short at that point, and then when he got on the ship with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which was implied to be just a few minutes later, his beard went back to being really long. Now, he could have combed it out or cleaned it, but I don't think that's Thor's style. I think this is just a good old-fashioned continuity error, or perhaps makeup error. Now, what about you guys? Did you find any other mistakes? And let me know what you think of these new videos. I'll be pumping them out pretty regularly from here on out. Catch you next time.